When thinking of the most iconic movie trilogies, what immediately comes to mind? Star Wars, Back to the Future, the Dark Knight trilogy, maybe even the Living Dead trilogy for you horror fans. We know our answer. Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings films are undoubtedly three of the best movies of all time. However, today we'll be focusing on its third and most prestigious installment, Return of the King. Return of the King was released on December 17th, 2003, making it 21 years old during the making of this video, which means it's time to buy the film its first drink, and probably many more.
What did I say? He can't hold his liquor.
Hi, and welcome to Buying a Film Its First Drink, the show where a film turns 21, we buy it a drink, and we tell you what we think. I'm your host, Dalton Sherrill, and today I'm joined by Jackson Hamm, and today we're going to be talking about Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, directed by Peter Jackson. And today I'm going to be drinking a Kentucky Vanilla Barrel Cream Ale, as well as Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, J.R.R. Tolkien in spirit, everyone who worked on this film and contributed. It's here in this Prancing Pony mug.
And I will be drinking Common John Brewing Straight and Narrow Golden Ale with a crispy little crack of the can.
So now just to get into some initial thoughts about the film, Jackson, what did you think?
Well, to start off, we watched the extended edition because when we do this, we're going all the way. We're going all in. And I don't want to hear it about how the extended edition was actually released in 2004 and it's only 20 years old. No. The original film is 21 and this is all in spirit of the original film. I don't care. We're going all the way though. Because the extended editions are the way to watch. Initial thoughts, this film is a masterclass of filmmaking. Every little element is so just finely detailed, like weapons, costumes, set direction, the entire look. It's cinema as it was meant to be, because from start to finish you're enthralled. You're no longer sitting on a couch watching a movie, or you're no longer in a dark theater watching a movie. You're just in there with the characters.
You're in Middle Earth.
You're in Middle Earth. You're watching the turn of the tide and whatnot.
The turn of the tide. So I'm going to go ahead and start off and say this is probably my favorite of the three Lord of the Rings films. I really like Fellowship. Two Towers might be my least favorite, even though, still a really strong film. But this is probably my favorite just because it caps it off and it's just so epic and exciting. And it makes so much sense that it did this Oscar sweep at the 76 Academy Awards. I also felt that the extended scenes were, not just extra little tidbits to add to the film, but they were necessary. I think it really was some of the connecting glue that just kind of ties the whole plot together. And I'd never seen the extended editions of Lord of the Rings, have yet to see the extended edition of Two Towers, but as far as Fellowship and Return of the King go, I think they're very necessary. I think it adds a lot to the film. How are you going to leave out that scene with Saruman? I feel like this is necessary plot information that we're missing whenever you watch the theatrical cut. And as far as initial reactions go, Sam's that MVP. Probably my favorite character in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Gandalf right behind him.
We're going to kind of go and outline the plot of this film a little bit, but with our commentary, have a few little sips and talk about the plot and what we liked. I find the opening of this film to be a nice break after the intensity of Two Towers, because we end on that. Sam and Frodo are entering Mordor. They're deep in enemy territory at this point, and the Battle of Helm's Deep just wrapped up. Barely won that one. So coming in with the origin of Gollum is, it's nice to see a character who we've now spent a lot of time with in the last movie to kind of see, here's where he came from. Here's the dark and twisted nature that is within him. We pick back up with Sam and Frodo. They're in Mordor proper at this point, and they're in it. Gollum's plotting the whole time. We get to see the beginning of that, just Gollum manipulating Frodo because the ring is just taking everything from him. We see Frodo at the beginning of this movie. He's already been through it up to this point, but if the beginning of Frodo in this movie is to say where he's going to end up, it's a bad ride. And of course, after we pick back up with Sam and Frodo, we get A scene that was criminally cut down for the theatrical cut.
And we talked about this a little bit in our initial reaction to the film, but without this scene, Saruman's plot essentially goes unresolved. We wouldn't know what happened to him. In the theatrical cut, Gandalf pretty much finds his magic orb lying in the ruins of Isengard, but in this version we actually get to see Saruman defeated, and we find out how the orb ends up in the water. Additionally, I think Gandalf destroying Saruman's staff is a great wraparound to Fellowship, in which Saruman completely schools Gandalf with his expert spell slinging during their little wizard duel. But seeing as how Gandalf has defied death and has returned to the realm of the living as the White Wizard, it's a cool character moment that showcases his newfound power. Plus, there's a bit of a redemption moment for slimy old Grima as he plunges a dagger into Saruman's back. Then the gang returns to Rohan for a bit of celebratory drinking. However, it's after this scene that Pippin's curiosity gets the best of him once again, and he touches the Palantir, alerting Sauron to their movements.
From this point forward, every character is just in play. You know, Gandalf and Pippin, they're off to Gondor trying to get them to light the beacons. Aragorn is back in Rohan, you know, trying to avoid Éowyn because he's already got a lady, and she's like, "Oh, I love you, Aragorn." Also trying to get Theoden to respond to the beacons when they are hopefully lit, because Theoden's a little sour about Gondor not coming to Rohan's aid.
Where was Gondor when we drank beer?
Meanwhile, Frodo and Sam are just getting taken on the most tumultuous path through Mordor possible. Gollum is just taking them through the most complicated trailheads of all time.
See this incredibly steep staircase by the enemy fortress? Let's go that way.
I like that the plot up until Sam and Frodo split apart in the Battle of Pelennor Fields. It's just everyone is maneuvering like a chess piece. It keeps the narrative fluid and it keeps, the viewer engaged. Such as when the forces of Rohan are conglomerating. Back at Minas Tirith, it's falling under siege, and Denethor is losing his absolute marbles just watching it. Denethor really is just doing everything wrong as the steward of Gondor, coming in, "Bring out the lead plates and cups. I shall drink that." The man is lead poisoned to hell and back. Just look at him. Look at it. You look at those plates. You're telling me he ain't just sipping lead? He's just... Oh.
Contributed to that mental state of his.
Some nice lead undertones in this one. Very good.
Meanwhile, having blamed the disappearance of the Lambdis bread on Sam, Frodo has completely succumbed to Gollum's treachery. And the scheme he's been hatching since the first film begins to unfold as he lures Frodo into Shelob's cave. I really love these scenes because while Frodo is being numbed by the ring, Gollum reveals his true nature to Frodo, but even after the attempt on his life, Frodo spares him because of how pathetic of a creature Gollum is, and inevitably he gets chucked down a chasm. Later on, Frodo gets incapacitated by the giant spider, resulting in perhaps one of my favorite moments in the film.
Let him go, you filth.
After Sam fends off Shelob, he believes Frodo is dead as he tears through a thick layer of spiderweb to reveal his lifeless carcass. Then a band of orcs approach, revealing that Frodo is alive, increasing the stakes for the fate of Frodo and the ring. Then we get the epic conclusion of Pelennor Fields with the reinforcement from the army of the dead, King Theoden's heroic sacrifice, and Éowyn defeating the Witch King of Angmar.
I am no man.
And I believe it was at this point in the film when we were watching, I believe it started occurring to me, if I were to use, modern internet lingo to describe this film is just the indomitable human spirit put on paper and made for the screen. The climax of this film is upon us, and every character up to this point is pushing forward. Frodo and Sam, they're drawing ever closer to Mount Doom. Aragorn leads what forces are left to the Black Gates to distract Sauron from noticing, Frodo and Sam slipping in the back door, essentially. Everyone in the Fellowship could have lost faith in Frodo and Sam at this point. They haven't seen them since the end of Fellowship of the Ring. They have not been together since the first movie, but everyone just stays true. They stay hopeful that Frodo and Sam will complete this task, and I think that speaks a lot for everybody.
There's that scene when they're back in Rohan and Gandalf's just like, "Frodo's alive. I know it. But like you kind of see that maybe he second guesses himself a little bit. Like you can see the worry on his face through the smile.
Definitely. You see he's like, he has to be, or else it's all for nothing, essentially. And then, of course, we get to the Black Gates. Aragorn is sitting there, front of everybody, king of Gondor at this point. He's taken up his destiny. And this is, I believe, like one of the highest tension moments among the characters, is when Sauron specifically singles out Aragorn and starts speaking to him in the Black Speech. You know, everyone is kind of looking at him, and this idea of hope that Aragorn is, this idea of the indomitable human spirit, very much make what happens next my favorite moment.
For Frodo.
And then right before Aragorn charges in, first in, followed right by Merry and Pippin, we get this kind of moment where everyone's kind of looking to him. Like, are you going to turn out like Isildur? Especially when Sauron's speaking to him, you know, they're all kind of looking at him like, uh-oh. Is this going to be a repeat of hundreds of years ago where he just turns and the faith of man falls, essentially? And this is all communicated beautifully with a lot of facial acting among Gandalf and other characters. And he proves here that his avoidance of, you know, kingship of Gondor and his destiny and all that, it was all just placed upon him by himself. It was self-doubt, it was anxiety, and I think this one moment just speaks volumes with only actions and a single line of dialogue to the power and beauty of this film.
Piggybacking off of Isildur's folly and the shadowy precedent it sets for the characters being able to resist the temptations of the ring and defeat Sauron, once Frodo and Sam enter Mount Doom, we get a scene that mirrors the moment 3,000 years before, in which Elrond implores Isildur to toss the ring into the fire, in which he simply replies,
No.
This time it's Sam begging Frodo to let it go, to which he responds that the ring is his. Then the score kicks in, and for a moment it feels like all hope is lost. You want to sing the score?
Oh, yeah. Here, let's do that again.
Then the score kicks in, and for a moment it feels like all hope is lost. Out of nowhere, Gollum incapacitates Sam with a rock and proceeds to gnaw off Frodo's finger until he's acquired the precious. But seeing as how corrupt Frodo has become, he's not going to let it go that easy, so he wrestles Gollum off the cliff, resulting in the creature's untimely demise. One detail about this moment I eat up every single time I watch this movie is that Gollum was so encapsulated by getting the ring back that he seemingly doesn't even feel the heat of Mount Doom's magma as his flesh is consumed by the fire. That is just like, wow, yeah, no, he definitely did rot for 500 years and just got consumed by getting this piece of jewelry back.
You know, one could say Gollum was the first victim of brain rot.
What the Sigma?
Following this, we get a power of friendship moment as Sam's able to pull Frodo back from the brink, as he's done throughout the entire trilogy, proving that he is the true MVP of this franchise.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
MVP indeed Sam is, as he gets Frodo and him to safety while Mount Doom is erupting and Barad-dûr just crumbles and falls. You know, this sends the forces of Sauron into disarray. One thing we both laughed at while watching this is this giant troll who just, like, tosses aside his weapon, just starts running. I'm pretty sure he even, like, pushes some people out of the way, just like, move, I'm getting out of here, man. And a little side fact about this exact troll that was running away. Originally, Aragorn was going to be seen fighting Sauron in the way he looked in the prologue of Fellowship of the Rings, but Peter Jackson felt it didn't represent what Tolkien had written in the books and thought maybe it was a little demeaning to Aragorn's character as well. So in the end, they ended up just doing a little CG troll thing. And I think maybe a Sauron fight would have looked cool. And I've seen storyboards and such, and there's this really funny moment where when Sauron appears, Aragorn just kind of looks confused, like, oh, what are you doing here? And I think the CG troll ended up being the right choice. So to get back to the main plot at hand, Frodo and Sam are rescued by Gandalf and the Eagles, waking up in Gondor, and this is where we get the reunification of the Fellowship. All of them finally together in one place. I love the mutual look of just like respect between Legolas and Frodo, who interacted the least out of anybody. They just kind of exchange a look. Like, Frodo's like, I knew you'd make it, and Legolas is just kind of like, thanks, you did good.
It's a game respects game moment.
Game, recognized game.
Pretty much. Aragorn is then officially crowned king in the coronation, and then Arwen drops in to become queen because that's his boo. Of course, this is followed up by Aragorn, everybody actually giving flowers to the hobbits. Because without them, the wheels would have fallen off a long time ago. The hobbits are the glue that kept the fellowship together. Of course, Frodo and Sam, top tier MVPs, you know, player of the year trophy. Merry and Pippin, they held everybody together in Frodo and Sam's absence, you know, giving them some antics to laugh at, and also being some of the bravest of the bunch, even though they were the smallest. The hobbits return to the Shire and get a beautiful scene at the Green Dragon after having experienced something absolutely insane, life-changing. They'll never be the same, especially Frodo, which we get at the end of this film. But they're all just kind of sitting there as all the hobbits in the Shire go about life as they always have. They don't know, you know, what the world is like. We've been in this corner of the world our whole life, not bothered by man or any of the affairs of Sauron until, you know, we join the Fellowship. Sam once again proves he's the MVP by getting them all back in the spirit. He gets up, walks over to the girl he likes. I believe her name's Rosie Cotton. He goes for it. He's been talking about her throughout the films, and he goes back and he's just like, you know what? I went to Mordor and back. Asking for a date ain't nothing, and I think it's a very lovely bit to kind of ease them back into normal life after going through literal hell.
But ultimately they decide that gardening and drinking and feasting just isn't the life anymore. There's more to life than that, and I think that's beautiful.
Sam, of course, gets married to Rosie, and then we get the bookend of the film. Bilbo is going off to the Undying Lands. You know, he's decrepit at this point. You know, I hate to say it, but Bilbo is looking worse for wear. He's going with the elves and Gandalf. And this is where Merry, Pippin, and Sam learn that Frodo is also going. The journey of the ring was a hardship for Frodo. And then just the psychological effects of the ring just kind of, it broke Frodo. So he went back to write the book, to finish the book for Bilbo. And now he's going to the Undying Lands. And this is, you know, the ending of Return of the King for me is a hard ending to get through without a dry eye. I managed to do it this time, probably because I've seen it so much at this point, but it is a very emotional ending. Of course, Sam goes back with the book to read the stories to his plethora of children that he will have, and the film is ended by Into the West by Annie Lennox. It's a beautiful song. It won Best Original Song at the Oscars that year. Of course, the film won a lot that year. And it is a tribute song inspired by the unfortunate death of a young New Zealand filmmaker, Cameron Duncan.
Speaking of the Oscars, the film was a massive critical and cultural success.
And the Oscar goes to... It's a clean sweep. The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King.
Winning all 11 of its Oscar nominations at the 76 Academy Awards. These categories include Best Picture, Best Director, Best Writing Adapted Screenplay, Best Film Editing, Best Art Direction Set Decoration, Best Costume Design, Best Makeup, Best Music Original Score, Best Music Original Song, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Visual Effects. The film's 11 awards ties it with Ben-Hur and Titanic for the most awarded film in Oscar history.
Salute to Return of the King.
You bow to no one.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Buying a Film Its First Drink. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and be sure to comment your favorite moment from Return of the King below.
And be sure to check out our other content. During the first episode of this show, myself and Jackson Grubbs bought Hulk 2003 its first beer, so go show that video some love. And we also have our other shows, Studio Cinema Saturday and Television Tuesday, as well as the short films we've made. So plenty of content for you guys to go watch, so go show those videos some love. And as always, we'll see you at the next watch.
And the next drink.
Bilbo Swaggins.